have students. Okay, so we are in our syllabus here. I'm just showing where we're at. So the section about marketing, you really should go through these bullet points and confirm to yourself that you understand these general things. I put that market research website up there. It has a lot of good videos for review of all these concepts. We'll probably have to keep reviewing them when you come back, but you should know that market position, that means compared to your competitors. A competitor analysis, what you're looking for there. I'm going to post a handout on a template for evaluating competitors. Target market analysis is your customer research. Market goals are going to be either sales, maybe profits, but usually for marketing, that's more about finance, right? Sales and profits. For marketing, we care more about, profits is more for finance and sales is more for marketing. Or market share or brand awareness if we're a new product or service. So what's our goals? Right now we're in the strategy part. That's the marketing mix. So marketing strategy is connected to marketing mix. We are niche products, not mass market. Market segmentation, just follow along this when you decide or when you work out what is the actual identity of your target market. I did a video on market research, although we definitely need more help on that, and hopefully we can zoom on that. Collection of primary and secondary data, you have to know what that means, and then data analysis, to put it into pie charts, to organize the information. The concept of the marketing mix is related to the actual goals of marketing and the definition of marketing, which is to deliver products or services to customers that support their needs and wants at a price that they're willing to pay, in a place that they're willing to buy, and communicate this information to them effectively. So the marketing mix includes promotion, communication effectively, a place they want to buy, distribution, a price they're willing to afford, and a product that they want that's going to fulfill a need or benefit. So those are the 4 Ps. Those are connected to the marketing mix most directly. Elements of the marketing mix. Last video talked about product a bit. Products all have features and benefits. It should say features and benefits here. Features are things that the product has that you can identify about it. And benefits are how the product makes the customer feel, or what they get from it emotionally. Features are aspects of your product which could be technical or descriptive. Benefits are why that feature matters for your customers. In other words, how that feature makes their life better. Features tell customers what, and benefits tell customers why. So why do they want to buy your product? Because it makes them feel what? What is it? It's the most state-of-the-art, up-to-date smartphone in the world. Features and benefits. You're usually selling to the benefits. And that's also related to the buying motives of the customers, which are going to be either emotional or some logical, rational or emotional buying motives. Positioning, again, is where you sit in the market and what kind of space you have as far as the customer's understanding of your value based on your quality and price. Branding is the image of the name and the logo you've selected. That's part of product, right? Because it doesn't change. It's constant. Packaging, that is done for many reasons. Packaging can be done to protect the product, to communicate, to be shipped and transported. Packaging has many uses. And today, I want to get a little bit into pricing strategy. Pricing strategies. Issues here. So the main kinds of pricing strategies that we'll deal with are here. Cost-based pricing. You're not really doing dynamic pricing, but I will describe it. Price skimming, that's important. And penetration pricing, that's also important. So there's a lot of good information here about pricing. Obviously, this is one of the things that most impresses the customer right away. They're immediately evaluating how you price yourselves, makes them think about you one way or another. For example, if the price is high for something, even if it's not great quality, people tend to give it a little bit more credit than it deserves. They think, okay, well, there must be something really good about this, that's why it's got a high price. Now, if you know the product already or service and you just see that it has a higher price than normal, then you can feel like, well, these people, they're just ripping us off. They're just charging us more than they need to. Or maybe they have a captured market. For example, when you go to a sporting event in the United States, if you go to an NBA game or even a concert, you cannot go in and out of the venue. You have to stay inside the venue. If you leave, you cannot come back in. So they know that you're a captured market whenever you're in that stadium, for example. So they can charge you whatever price they want to charge you for food and drinks. And often it's very, very high. It's kind of like the airport. When you're in the airport, you don't have a choice about what you're going to buy. You have to shop at what's available so they can overcharge you. So that's kind of a monopoly. So you can see how a monopoly would overcharge somebody just from the airport. So if something is priced too high, or the perception of the customer could be either that it's really good or must have some features or benefits that I'm missing, or it could be that, wow, these people have some kind of monopoly over this situation and I can't really get out of this price choice. On the other hand, if the price is too low, if I take an iPhone 10 and I say, oh, here, I just want to get rid of this. Who wants to buy it? I'll sell it for, I don't care, $500,000. The first thing you would think is, what's wrong with it? There must be something wrong with that phone. Why would you sell it so cheaply? The immediate impression is that there's some problem with it, and your perception is affected by the number that I gave. If If I said 3 million, you'd still think, well, it's a little bit low, but it's still kind of possible that you need money, so maybe 3 million. But 500,000, that can't be real. Maybe it's a copy from China. It's probably not real. It's not real. So your psychology and how prices affect you is immediately determined. You do it, the customer does it very quickly. They know what they want to pay a lot of times. And this also affects them in a way when you go, my least favorite bubble tea shop, the alley. I hate the alley. But when you go to the alley, by the time you buy what you really want to buy, if you can actually figure out how to buy what's in the picture, the price that you saw at first is way lower than what you're going to pay. You're going to pay 20 or 30,000 more than what you thought. And that's for all the extra stuff, all that sugar, all those chow dan and cheese on top. All of that stuff is going to cost extra. So not only is it 55,000, now it's going to be like 85,000, and you start to feel like, wow, my whole perception of what I was buying was wrong. And I thought I was buying something I can afford, and now I see that it's too expensive for me. So those add-ons, they change your perception of price. When you buy airplane tickets from Vietjet, if you do it enough, you already know that the price that they show you is not really the price. That you could start off with a price that looks amazing. Somehow it's 500,000? This is great for an airplane trip. By the time you finish ordering, it's 3 million somehow. So price strategy can affect you. You can feel emotional. You can feel upset about the way that things are priced. You can feel like you got the greatest deal in the world. So pricing strategy has a real psychological component to it. Let me first, so we'll look at, here's the pricing strategies that they're offering us on our Zoom. So these are the main ones that are offered in our book. But obviously pricing strategy has a lot of other elements to it. I just discussed part of the psychology of how we feel about prices. Although there is a separate kind of pricing strategy called psychological. The first thing to understand and make sure it's very clear for us is that we are a niche product. Right? All of our products and services are supposed to be a small firm in a market. We're not market leaders. We're not a mass market. We're not competing with big companies. Okay, so the reason why I mention that is because the first the order of these is a little bit suspect, but penetration pricing. Penetration means to penetrate the market. That means to try to gain or take market share from someone. So in order to penetrate the market, you're going to offer a low price in order to get into the market. So penetration pricing doesn't really work for a niche product. Penetration pricing only works when you're in a mass market, when you're trying to get market share. You're not just trying to give customers awareness or to offer them a price that they can afford. You're lowering your prices. Penetration price is a lowering of price so a customer can try something. So if you think about that, it's also a promotional price, right? It's a price that you charge at the beginning in order to get people to try something. Eventually the customer will probably understand that the price is going to go up. I can remember there was a time a million years ago when the new soft drink Revive. I found this soft drink Revive. It was put into the market. It's a mass market product. It was put in the market about 10 years ago when I lived in my old house. And I would go to the gym and exercise, and I'd come back and I'd say, oh wow, this is a nice drink for after the gym. A good exercise drink called Revive. And it was a brand new drink, and everybody sold it for 5,000 dong for a big bottle. And if I thought about that price like the same way I would think about the price of Sting. You know, Sting is very cheap. It was very cheap. It was almost the same price. The bright red energy drink, or maybe bright yellow, Sting. When I saw that Sting, I thought, oh my God, what is this weird chemical drink? It's so cheap, it can't be good. It has to be terrible. It has to be like the most, how can they even afford to produce this thing for this price? It's so cheap. So I would never touch Sting. I was always afraid of it. I never drank a Sting. Maybe I should. Very cheap. And I just felt very suspicious about this. But when I saw the Revive and it was 5,000, I still recognized the bottle shape, and the company was related to other soft drinks like Fanta and Sprite. So I thought, okay, well this is just a temporary price. It's not really that cheap for them to make this. They're just selling it to me at the lowest price that they can sell it. And eventually they're going to sell it at the same price as Sprite and Coca-Cola and all the other products that are the same. So I wasn't surprised by that. I thought of it as a promotion. It was a temporary price. So as we know, promotions are temporary. So that's what they did. They used penetration pricing. It was lower than the other soft drinks, but it still had the same quality and image because it was made by 7-Up or whatever company made it. That was a big company, so everybody just said, okay, well this must be just temporary. They just assumed. They didn't think anything was wrong with it. So you know, sometimes you can feel two ways about it. McDonald's. So in the US, McDonald's will often have very cheap hamburgers. They'll sell them for less than $1. And in my mind, I feel, wow, okay, I guess that's a good deal. I get to have this McDonald's hamburger for less than $1. But on the other hand, I think, wow, how can they make a burger that's so cheap like this? It must not even be real. It must be a fake burger. It must be incredibly cheap. I don't know if I want to eat food that's so cheap. I don't want a burger that's cheaper than cheaper than $1, 90 cents, 80 cents. I don't think that's the kind of food I want to eat. It doesn't sound like good quality. It sounds cheap. So, penetration pricing, I'll go through it again. We'll look at a video, but I just want to indicate to you that you cannot use penetration pricing as your pricing strategy in this task because you're not in a mass market. And penetration pricing is only for mass markets. All right, so if you go to your book, I'm on page 57. The way that your book is designed, it doesn't really, it's not very orderly about how it chooses the strategies. It should probably break it up into mass and niche market pricing. I'm going from the top of the book. The pricing process includes the setting, involves setting the price of the product. A good pricing strategy will ensure sales income and meet profit objectives. As you know, if something is too expensive, or you've passed shops before where you thought it was too expensive for what they're offering, and there's no customers in there at all, doesn't work. It fails. It's not, it's too much. And it has to do with the expectation of the customer. Burger King totally failed here. Lotteria was successful. Lotteria's prices were somewhat lower, and they seemed to offer more selection. And people thought it was kind of fun to go there, I guess. Whereas Burger King had a very limited menu, and if you ordered a meal, it was over 100,000. Too much for people. People thought 100,000, that's a lot of money just for like a meal. I don't know if I want to spend that. So you really have to, when you look at, when KFC, at a certain point, they figured out that they could be more competitive by offering the rice dishes, right? They had the meals with the French fries, and they were all 70,000 or 80,000 or more. But now for 40,000 or 42,000, you can get a piece of chicken with rice, a little bit of vegetables. So it's a fairly, it's meeting the expectations of what the customer wants to pay for lunch. So it fits their budget. If everything on the menu is over 80,000 or 90,000, a lot of people don't want to go there, especially if they're with a friend, right? They don't want to push their friend to spend too much money. The business will need to perform a breakdown analysis and other financial calculations to determine the price required to cover costs and to meet the profit goals. So you have to know your costs. Additionally, the business needs to determine the price the customer is willing to pay and still remain competitive in the marketplace relative to the competition. That's what remain competitive means. There can be several negative effects of an incorrect price. If the price is too high, the consumer may decide that the product is not good enough, it's not high enough, it doesn't have enough quality, or offer enough customer service in order to pay that price. To justify the higher price, the company will have to prove that it's something the customer really feels is a luxury or something they're going to be willing to pay more money for. Exclusivity, for example. If the price is too low, the consumer may believe that the product is too cheap and possibly poor quality. The reputation of the business may be affected negatively by having too cheap of a price. An example of that, the brand being affected by the price, would be, it's okay if a company like Skoda, they have cheap cars, or they had cheap cars, and they try to improve their positioning in the market by starting to have relatively or fairly inexpensive cars compared to the competition that have good quality. So people still expect them to be pretty reasonable priced or fairly, affordable, but yet you're offering them more quality. They can accept that from Skoda, even though they know that before the quality was quite terrible and the price was quite low. We can accept a company trying to improve its quality. But if you take a company like Mercedes-Benz, who has a reputation for very high quality, and they're in a niche, right? They're a luxury brand, they're a niche. Only certain people have been buying Mercedes for a long time. Now imagine that Mercedes wants to become a mass market product or brand, and they decide they want to release or make a car like the Kia Morning car, right? Those little Kia Mornings. So they decide that they're gonna mass produce this small little Mercedes-Benz car and call it, the Mercedes Mini or whatever. And so all those people who spent money on the expensive Mercedes in the past, now they feel weird They feel like, wait, I paid for this logo. I paid for this exclusive feeling that I have when I drive a Mercedes. And now I look around the road and everybody's got a Mercedes. This is awful. I don't have the same feeling that I had before. I don't like this brand anymore. Next time I'm gonna buy a BMW, or I'm gonna buy an Audi or a Ferrari or something else, because now the brand image and the price that I pay doesn't give me the value that I wanted to show off when I buy a Mercedes. So you have to be very careful that you don't offer something that lowers the price, even, especially for a luxury brand, a price for something that affects the value that the customer has. So I think that's a good example. Also, remember about our task. In our task, we are not allowed to use price as a competitive advantage. Our goal of our market research is to figure out where our competitive advantages is going to be compared to other companies that provide the same service or product. As I said before, we're pretending that this market is a free market and that it's an open market and a competitive market, which means that everybody has access to the same employees, the same costs, the same suppliers. So that means that there's no reason why you should have a price advantage over anyone else. That's why we're not allowed to use it for our competitive advantage. You can't say, well, I'm going to give everything that my competitor gives, meaning you use the same service, same employees, same training, same suppliers, but I'm going to do it at a cheaper price. How? Why is your price cheaper? There's no reason for it. That's why we can't use it. So keep in mind the limitation of your competitive advantage. Your competitive advantage must be something about the product or service that's different or better, some kind of distribution that gives you an advantage over how your customers are able to deliver their product or service, or maybe that you have some branding and image that's superior to what your competitors offer. Okay, so that's it. Those are the only ways that you can get a competitive advantage. I'm on page 57 in our book. So what kind of strategies are available to you? This box is very important, even though it should probably, even though it's quite small in the book. It actually contains pricing strategies that you can use. Now, I'm going to go through these quickly. Market price. The market price is a little bit similar to what is offered, what this is called here is dynamic pricing. The market price has to do with supply and demand. So if you're, some things go up and down constantly, like the price of oil goes up and down. That's why when you go to a gas station or a petrol station, they don't have fixed prices. They have a digital price display that's changing all the time. That's why when people drive past gas stations, they look at the prices that they offer because they are concerned about the differences in price. That's usually caused by supply and demand. If there's only, and that's also has to do with monopolies as well. If there's only one gas station within 100 kilometers, they can charge a higher price than the others because the supply that you and the choice that you have is limited. Another way that market price is affecting that you might see in your daily life is airplane tickets. Airplane tickets go up and down depending on how much demand there is for the date. Around holidays like Bamui, Tangtu, there's much more demand, and so prices are higher. Right now with coronavirus, prices are lower, much lower, because there's no demand for people flying. So market price is determined by supply and demand. Let's look at another example. Sometimes, well, every time you order a grab bike, they reevaluate the price that you're paying. You always pay, sometimes you pay a similar price, but often the price goes up and down. That's because of demand and availability. That's market price. Now, dynamic pricing is the airline type of pricing. It's the companies that have sophisticated computer systems that can figure out how much people are willing to pay that day and still sell tickets, and also fill the airplane and do it in the way where they make the most money. So dynamic pricing is an adjustment to supply and demand that's usually done with computers now. But that's similar to market pricing. Discount pricing, a lower price to stimulate demand if demand is low. Okay, so you might say to yourself, wait, you just said penetration pricing is a low price. It is a low price, but penetration pricing has a particular goal of introducing the product. So you don't use penetration pricing as a long-term strategy. It's a short-term strategy to get people to try a product. So instead of using penetration pricing as a strategy in your marketing plan, you would use sometimes maybe discount pricing. And discount pricing is a promotion because it's temporary. And the reason why you do it is because you want to either stimulate demand, sales have been low, and you need to find a way to get customers back into using your product or service, or perhaps you have extra inventory and you try to get rid of it. One common technique of bakeries is to offer the bread that was old the day before for half price in the morning the next day. So I used to take advantage of that. I'm not afraid of day-old pastries or bread. That's exciting for me, especially if I can save 50% off. So in order to clear inventory, to clear your old stock, sometimes people offer discount pricing so they can get rid of it. Another example of that would be when you go to a clothing shop. They have all the new products. When they have new clothing lines, they usually have all the sizes, right? You have your small, medium, large, XL, different numbers, and you can choose and find your size, and there's lots of options. Clothing shops in particular, they don't replenish or restock themselves that much. So after that season, the fashion that they had is gone. So what happens is that there's always going to be like 5 pieces left that are random sizes, and you can't really sell them anymore. You can't put them out there because people will come in and they'll say, hey, this looks great, can I buy this? And they'll say, wait, what size are you? And they'll say medium. And then they'll say, oh, all we have is smalls now. We don't have any more mediums. So I'm sorry. And the customer will be disappointed because they really like the shirt and they couldn't buy it. So as a result, what clothing shops do usually is they have one section in part of the store that's like clearance. It says clearance, it's discounted. It's cheaper, it's the last item, you don't get to choose the sizes. If you find something that fits you or that's nice, you usually get lucky. So it's more about luck for consumers. It's not about being able to order exactly what you want. Some people like the discounts, I like them. That's called discount pricing. Target return pricing is based on, and it's very similar to the profit margin at the end. So basically you have a goal, you have a target, and you're trying to reach that profit goal. So you need to charge a certain price in order to reach it. So for example, maybe, and cost plus, we'll get there. Let's say that you are a promoter and that you're going to promote a concert. live show and you're bringing in some international talent, an international recording artist, and that is going to cost you. Let's try to do a simple example. The place that the venue where you're going to have the concert has 1,000 people can fit in there, and the artist is asking you for, they want to get paid $6,000 in order to perform. So besides all the other costs that you have, right? So you have all the costs of renting the venue, hiring staff, promotion of the event, a lot of costs. So all your costs are up to here, right? And then you still got to make $6,000 just to pay the artist. So if you have 1,000 seats, you know that you need to make $6 per seat in order to pay for the artist. Okay, so at that point, your costs are up to here, and then you have to add $6, that's cost plus, add $6 just to meet your cost, to pay the artist. Now, if you want to make a profit, if you have a target of how much profit you want to make, then you would add up all the costs, add the $6 that it's going to cost if you sell all the tickets to pay the artist, and then you're going to raise the price maybe $4 more because you feel like you need to, you deserve to make $4 for each customer or each fan or each ticket buyer. And so that would be $4,000 in your pocket if you sell all the tickets. So you have cost plus, and then plus what your target is for how much profit you want to make. So that's one way that you can do pricing for events. Sometimes the artist price is very, very high. And if it's an artist that's known all over the world, it can be, $100 for a ticket. It can get very expensive, especially in a small club, because it's very exclusive. And each ticket, they have to make a certain amount to pay for that artist. So the bigger the venue, the cheaper the price, usually. So those are okay for events, and usually, specific specific actions. You don't really use target return pricing unless you have a real goal and it's only one event. What you're probably going to use is competitor pricing. Competitor pricing is one of the methods that you can use. And competitor pricing means to meet the price being charged by your main competitor. Now, it's not just competition, it's your main competitor. So that means when you're in the market, so when you're in the positioning map and you're looking at the different kinds of chocolate, your price is going to be related to your competition. If you're trying to be, if you think that you can have a higher quality at a lower price, like here, if you can fit yourself below Nestle here, in order for the customer to perceive you as competing or equal or similar to Nestle, you have to raise your price enough for people to think that it's good quality. If your price is too low and you think you're high quality, people will still not perceive that. So you need to think about your competition and be somewhat close to them in order for customers to think about you as similar. Now, that's very true with shampoos, for example. If you go to brands, Clear, Sunsilk, all those brands, they're all very similarly priced. They're all about within 10,000 dong of each other, head and shoulders. They know who their competition is, and they're trying to make, you know, some minor, small differentiation based on price. They don't want to be the cheap one. They don't want the customer to go, oh, this is a good quality one, but it's a cheap one. Because some people just think, this one's only 10,000 more. My hair is very important to me. I don't mind. I'll pay 10,000 extra for something like my hair. My hair is special. I'm not going to be cheap about it. So that might be a different, people might draw a different conclusion when it comes down to paper napkins. They're like, wait, these paper napkins look very similar and this one is 10,000 cheaper. I'm just going to buy the cheaper one. No one ever checks out my napkins. No one cares about them. I know that they're, you know, I know that I save money. I'm happy about that. So it depends, you know, on what the product is and how much that the customer feels emotionally attached to it. So one strategy that you're allowed to use is competitor pricing. So we should go and cost-based pricing. Real quick one.
Let's spend a couple of minutes looking at a popular, commonly used method of pricing based on costs. Cost, of course, is a massively important influence on business decisions, particularly when it comes to setting the price of a product or service. And in order to be profitable, over time, the price charged by a business needs to be more than its costs in order for a profit to be made. So costs have always been a big influence on pricing. In particular, there's one method which is very widely used, for example in industries such as retail, and it's known as markup pricing. So let's have a quick look at an example of market pricing in action, just to illustrate how cost can be used to set price. Imagine we've got a business that produces 10,000 units at a total cost of £100,000. Well, if we work out the total cost divided by the number of units, that's a cost per unit of £10. There, of course, we're spreading the fixed costs as well as the variable costs of that cost per unit cost. Well, how might we set the price for that product? If it's got a cost of £10, we may add a markup. We would use cost as the basis for setting the price. For example, we may decide to add a markup of 200% on top of the price of 10, a markup of £20, add the markup to the cost, gives you the selling price. Selling price is cost plus markup of £30. And we would know that if we sell that product for 30, it would be £20 more than what it costs to make. So there's an example of markup pricing. Well, it's widely used. What are the advantages, disadvantages of this method? Of course, if you know what your costs are, then it's really easy to apply a policy of markup. Let's just say we always apply 250% on top of the cost of the product, maybe what we've bought it for. That's a really easy way to set the price. And of course that also gives us a reason to increase the price if our costs increase. For example, as a result of a supply price change or maybe a change in exchange rates. And also it gives managers in the business, particularly marketing managers, some confidence that their selling prices should be profitable, assuming we can find somebody who's prepared to pay that price for the product or service. Well, you can immediately see, therefore, that there are some potential drawbacks with cost-based pricing. Firstly, of course, it probably ignores the most important factor on pricing, which is how responsive, how sensitive it is to price.
Okay, it's worth highlighting a few elements of this. Cost plus would be, again, something that you'd want to use in a situation where you have a bus trip at a holiday, you know, to take people to Vung Tau and spend the day. So how much is it going to cost to buy the gas? How much is the driver's time worth? Okay, so the time plus the gas, and then the company has to make a profit, so they want to make a profit of 20%, and then you just raise the price 20% higher than all the costs, and there you go. That's great. It's easy. very easy to calculate. If there's a rise in cost, then it doesn't really affect what you're trying to do, because you can just raise the price. Especially if you're, if you're a taxi driver and it's 10, then you can raise the price. If there's more demand, then you can raise the price. And it also ensures a profit, because you're always charging higher than cost, so that's great. But the drawbacks are kind of important too. So what is elasticity of demand? That's a very heavy economic term, but that means how much prices respond to changes. So if the price of, now with coronavirus, we see insane people who are buying toilet paper for some reason. I don't know why, but there's no more toilet paper in many shops. The price, they can charge double, triple price, and then people still buy it. So that's very little change in the elasticity of demand. That means people buy no matter what the price. But sometimes a small price change might affect people's habits about buying a lot. And I wonder maybe about, there's this really great place. It's a tiramisu restaurant, and this tiramisu restaurant is, not a restaurant, it's just like you drive by it. It's near the bridge, it's not far from here. And they used to sell a big tiramisu, and it was like 65 or 70,000. I felt really good about paying it. And then they raised the price to 90,000. Now it feels like it's close to 100,000. And I'm not sure, I mean, of course I'll buy it for my wife because I love her, I don't care. But still, I still feel a little bit like, not gonna buy it as much as I would buy it before. Because I feel, maybe their cost went up. But the price jump was really high, and it was really dramatic, and I feel like, it's a little bit too much. How can price really go up 20%? I don't feel like other prices went up 20% in the economy, only there. So, we're always thinking about these comparisons of value. So if you just use cost plus and you don't know what the elasticity of demand is, it might turn out that you go just above what people are willing to pay and no one wants to buy it anymore. So that also is the fourth one on this list. Sales are lost if the price is above what people are willing to pay. May not take account of competition. If your costs are different from your competition and then your price is higher than your competition, then maybe people will not go. They'll just see, okay, two things, same quality, this one is a higher price, so I'm going to buy the cheaper one. And maybe on a certain level, you don't have as much incentive to control costs because you don't care, because you're just adding your profit to the top.
Just simply applying a markup to a cost doesn't tell you whether or not that price will be acceptable to the customers and how it will compare with the competition. It ignores the competition. And of course, if we use cost to set a price that's below what customers are prepared to pay, we may be losing out on some revenues that we could otherwise have earned. And there's also an argument that simply basing price on cost means that there's relatively little incentive for a business to be efficient, to control costs, if you know that the price is always going to be 3 times the cost. Where's the big incentive to try to reduce those unit costs to be more efficient? So, plenty of drawbacks to cost plus pricing, a few advantages, but it is widely used in business. Hopefully,
okay, I'm gonna, let's see, where are we at here? Turn to page 58. I want to review penetration pricing first before we go to other ones. So number 2 says penetration pricing. Let's make it clear. A low price is set because customers will then respond by purchasing more, and new customers, more importantly, usually new customers will purchase the product or service. The product needs to be relatively popular, meaning that it's something that somebody wants. Alternatively, this pricing strategy may be used because of competitors moving into the same market segment. So they say you can use it to fight off competition. But it also said this is a strategy to sell more of something, less profit, but sell more units. So it's used for mass markets. So it says right here, so make a note to yourself. This is a volume or mass market strategy. Our businesses are not mass market, so we don't have that choice. A business might be able to afford low pricing when the accessories that come with the main item are sold for a higher markup. What that means is that, some phone company can sell a cheap phone, but then they can have expensive headphones or expensive rechargers and make up for the price in a different way. This is what ViaJet does. They have a very low price that attracts your attention, and you're like, wow, I want to go to Bali, let's buy a ticket. And then by the time you get done with all the add-ons and suitcases and insurance, it gets to be much more expensive. Caution is required because competitors might attempt the same pricing strategy and because the image of the product could suffer. So you could have a price war, that's what they're saying. The competitors might attempt the same strategy and then everybody loses. And the last one is the product could suffer because it's a relatively lower price. So what that means is that it really should be a temporary strategy because you don't want your customer to feel like, oh, this is a really cheap product. I used to think they were pretty good, but when something happened to them, now they're very cheap. And so their prices are cheap and I feel that they're cheap. So it's different, right? You have to be careful. I think it's probably better to use a discount for a promotional strategy than it is to use penetration pricing. But of course, if you're a new mass market product in the supermarket, you can advertise yourself as like, come and try at a low price, introductory price. So let's look at penetration for a minute.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire...
Hi there. Let's take a look at another method of pricing by businesses. This one's called penetration pricing. And penetration pricing is often associated with a strategy adopted by a business which has a new product which it wants to enter into a market with an objective of gaining market share and trying to build up a customer base, trying to encourage those customers then to become and remain loyal to the brand and the new product. So the reason why it's called penetration pricing is that in order to enter the market and build that customer base, you try to offer a very low introductory price, certainly much lower than the existing products, existing competitors in the market, with the aim of gaining market share, taking market share from others. So you can imagine that this is quite a different strategy from an alternative strategy for a new product called price skimming, where you try to charge as high a price as you can to reach the segment that's prepared to pay the high price. So penetration pricing offer a really low price, and can you gain market share? A good example of this is IKEA. When IKEA first launched in China at the turn of the century, it found its stores were hugely popular. Tens of thousands of people visiting every day, but they weren't spending very much. They loved walking around, having a sit down, even a sleep, but then they go elsewhere to pick up much lower priced, similar products from local stores. So IKEA significantly reduced its prices in China and quickly worked out this was the way to build market share. It reduced its prices by as much as 50, 60, 70% below the equivalent prices for similar IKEA products in other countries, as a deliberate policy, along with other changes to the marketing mix, of gaining market share. And as a result, they very quickly became the dominant home furnishings retail player in China. So another example of penetration pricing that you may have fallen victim to, I certainly have, is what's known as hook and bait penetration pricing, a method of this pricing strategy in action.
I don't think we should go into this in too much detail right now, because this is more, I'll describe it very quickly. Hook and bait, sometimes it's called bait advertising. And what it is not a strategy, it's more like a scam. And what they do is they try to hook you into a system and then add on a bunch of extra costs that you would need. So this is a technique that they use for, you know, most games, right? When you have like a lot of online games that are free, they want to get you to play it, and then they'll build you up to a certain level where it's really fun, and then they'll say, oh, well, if you want to unlock the next character, or if you want to get to the next level, you're going to have to put money in. And then you go to your parents and you ask them if they're going to put their credit card into some weird game, and they're like, what? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm afraid to give this company my credit card. They could charge me over and over. Or the credit card information's already in the iPad, and the kid just presses the button like buy, and the parents get a bill for $100 because of some Robux that their kid bought, you know, online. So it's a, you know, that's a kind of a real trick, you know, to get kids involved and then trick them into spending money. But these are two other examples. Razors, usually when you buy your first razor, it's just a plastic thing that you hold in your hand. Super cheap, but you need to replace the blades all the time, and the blades can be very expensive, and that you know, you don't lose too much by switching to another brand, but still, you're already in the system, and if you like the system, you have to buy the blades. Printers, a lot of things, like when I bought my computer about 7 years ago, I bought an HP, and they said, oh cool, we're gonna give you a color printer for just like $90 more. You can get a printer to come with that computer, and then you're like, a printer? I can have my own printer? This is amazing. But they have a special ink cartridge. You can only use their kind of ink, and it's very expensive for each ink, and it doesn't make that many copies. Scam. I got scammed. So that's what they're talking about, hook and bait. They're trying to hook you into using a system, and then after you use the system, you have to pay more. So it's probably not worth going through the whole rest of that video. So this is why it has to be a mass market product. So it's a low price strategy, so if demand doesn't move, elastic, if it doesn't move, if the price is cheaper, if people don't care, really there's some things that people, they just expect a certain price, they don't want it to be cheaper. So it has to be something that people are willing to be happy about a discount. Then it won't work if it doesn't, it must be sensitive to price. This is why it's a mass market product, because you need to have economies of scale. You need to have a cheaper unit cost the more you sell, because you're more interested in selling more than you are in making a lot of profit on each item. So if you cannot gain on your costs, it doesn't really help you very much. Prices need to be kept low to stop the competition from using a similar strategy for the most part. Drawbacks. The initial price can create an expectation of permanently low prices. So if you don't make it clear that it's a promotion or temporary, people will just think, oh, that's the cheap brand. Penetration pricing may simply attract customers who are looking for a bargain. So I just want to buy it because it's cheap now, but I don't really care about it in the future. And if it's not something that, you know, if there's no differentiation between your product and the other, then I'll just keep buying the cheapest one. It doesn't matter about your brand. It's not important to me. No loyalty. And finally, competitors can get into a price war with you, and then everybody loses. So those are the main points. I'll upload that video. So I don't think we're going to have that much time to go through all the pricing strategy, but I will talk about skim pricing a minute or two. Skim pricing is on page 57. Skim pricing is a high price, so it's not a low price. It's a high price that's set because customers are happy to pay more. This generally can occur when a new product is launched because consumers who are early adopters. So what that means is an early adopter is someone who wants to be the first one to try something. So you can imagine when skim pricing is for new products or new models of things that are have a high demand anyway. So the iPhone 6, and then there's an iPhone 7. And iPhone 7 comes out, high demand. So the people who get it first are the ones who get to show off and say, look what I got the new one. So you can charge them a higher price. They're willing to pay the skim price because they want to be the first one. Look at any technology, LED televisions, they have those curved TVs, I don't know what they're called, 3D TVs, the first virtual reality setups, all of those